Recent workforce analytics point to something similar on a larger scale. The average workday is becoming compressed, yet focus efficiency is actually falling. And data from Gallup adds another revealing layer. Around 1 in 5 employees worldwide are actively engaged at work, while overall well-being has barely improved. If looking productive truly equaled being productive, those numbers would tell a different story. Instead, they suggest the mask often hides declining performance underneath a polished exterior. To see how this plays out in real life, imagine someone in their mid-20s balancing college classes, a part-time job, and a small side hustle to make ends meet. They post color-coded planners and updates about never wasting a minute, but privately they're stretched thin. The curated version draws admiration, while the reality is exhaustion and fragmented focus. The mask doesn't help them keep things together. It simply hides how fragile their balance has become. At its core, this dynamic is costly because energy goes into protecting the persona instead of fueling the task itself. Once you've shaped yourself into the person who always has it together, small lapses feel like exposure. Show up unprepared for a meeting, and it doesn't feel like a simple slip. It feels like your mask cracking. That pressure drives people to redirect even more effort into maintaining appearances. Over time, the strain shifts from completing real outcomes to sustaining credibility. The weight of the mask doesn't only exist publicly, it turns inward too. Many convince themselves they're fully in control by building hyper-structured systems, multiple apps, endless lists, color-coded trackers. These setups project clarity, but often they disguise the deeper avoidance of uncomfortable tasks. Instead of moving toward the few things that would shift work forward, energy gets caught in maintaining the illusion of mastery. This is the hidden cost of the mask. It doesn't just fool people around us, it fools the person wearing it. Think of it like carrying a heavy bag while trying to type. You can keep working, but every keystroke requires extra effort. Eventually, the weight becomes invisible, still present, still pressing down, but easier to overlook because you've adapted. The productivity mask works in much the same way. It demands constant vigilance, never showing tiredness, never admitting disorganization, and that strain quietly erodes genuine effectiveness. Survival mode begins to replace sustainable growth. A week behind the mask might not seem damaging, but months and years matter. Burnout rarely happens in a single moment. It accumulates through cycles of hiding and pretending. Every time attention is pulled into rehearsing the image of productivity, less remains for actual progress. People end up drained not by the work itself, but by the constant investment in defending appearances. The irony is that this posture, meant to enhance credibility, destabilizes it over time by stripping away the very results it set out to protect. Which leads us to the central problem. By clinging to the mask, people sabotage the potential they're trying to preserve. They step into each day tasked not only with meeting responsibilities, but with upholding the curated version of themselves. That added burden wastes attention and reduces resilience. When cracks finally show, the damage doesn't come from revealing flaws, it comes from the years of energy misdirected into hiding them. And this is where the deeper connection becomes clear. Productivity masks don't only distort how others see us, they also obscure how we see our own habits, the patterns where wasted effort passes for discipline. Those hidden patterns, the traits and behaviors we'd rather not face, form a more challenging layer beneath the surface. The shadow side of daily habits. Carl Jung described the shadow as the parts of ourselves we resist acknowledging, the flaws, fears, and motives we'd rather set aside. When it comes to daily productivity, the shadow doesn't just live in hidden aspects of personality. It shows up in the way we work, shaping common habits that appear useful but often serve as detours. This is the side of the shadow that operates not through obvious avoidance, but through routines that feel responsible while quietly stalling meaningful progress. Email is a clear illustration. Many people dedicate an hour each morning to sorting, flagging, and archiving messages. The desk feels organized, the inbox looks neat, and by the end, there's a sense of accomplishment. Yet if none of the day's most important work has moved forward, that hour wasn't true productivity, it was distraction repackaged as diligence. The shadow often takes disguises that look useful, which allows avoidance to persist unnoticed. Research is another common disguise. You set out to draft a report, but end up opening just one more article, then another, until several hours have passed. The stack of resources makes you feel prepared, careful, and thorough. But preparation without a decision to act is stalled progress. You've avoided risk. The report can't be criticized if it isn't written, yet convinced yourself you've been working. This is how the shadow sustains itself. It offers safe substitutes for forward movement while protecting your identity as someone thoughtful and productive. Perfectionism might be the most subtle form. Think of rewriting a single paragraph again and again, polishing every word until it feels flawless. On the surface, it looks like high standards. But in practice, it's often resistance to exposing your work to feedback. The shadow thrives here because polish provides cover. It's easier to stay in the comfort of draft improvements than to face the uncertainty of judgment. To challenge this in real time, try setting a micro rule. Today, take one paragraph, stop editing after the first pass, and send it. The discomfort of letting it go is exactly the signal that you've stepped past shadow avoidance and into real progress. Workplace data reflects how widespread this pattern has become. Recent analytics found focus efficiency hovering in the low 60s, while session lengths are actually increasing, more hours spent in apparent concentration, but less deep work accomplished. It's the statistical twin of the shadow habit: activity escalating, effectiveness slipping. People aren't doing nothing. They're doing more of what looks productive while losing ground on what matters. That is why days can feel full yet leave you unsatisfied. The shadow doesn't present as procrastination in the obvious sense. It suggests the satisfying click of mark all is read, the reassuring neatness of a reorganized calendar, the pride in spending hours researching instead of producing. These behaviors drain time while justifying themselves with logic. I need a clean inbox before I start the real work. I can't draft until I've gathered every detail. The reasoning sounds defensible, which is why spotting the shadow in daily choices requires careful honesty. The reinforcement often comes not just internally, but culturally. Workplaces still praise quick email responses, visible busyness, and the appearance of tireless involvement. Staying late can be celebrated even if the extra hours achieve little. Recognition of effort becomes a reward system for shadow habits. The results, slowed projects, unfocused progress, remain hidden behind the mask of constant activity. In this culture, you aren't just fighting personal avoidance. You're swimming against a current that mistakes visible effort for actual output. It helps to separate activity from effectiveness. Activity is always easy to show. The number of emails answered, the apps updated, the tabs researched. Effectiveness is harder to measure in real time because it's final, a submitted proposal, a finished draft, an experiment completed. The shadow avoids effectiveness because it can't hide there. A project is either shipped or not, a result either exists or it doesn't. So it steers energy toward endless cycles of visible activity, where effort looks convincing even when outcomes remain at a standstill. This matters because many shadow habits are built out of traits we'd normally admire. Thoroughness, organization, discipline, all can become tools for delay when they protect us from discomfort instead of pushing us through it. A person who claims to be meticulous might actually be resisting completion. A person who insists on careful preparation may be holding off on commitment. The habits themselves aren't inherently negative. It's their role as shields that quietly reshapes them into obstacles. To see the difference, look closely at common routines. Rising early is praised, managing inboxes seen as professional, color-coded planners as signs of control. But if those routines expand until the substantial work remains untouched, they've shifted into shadow territory. The question worth asking is simple. Did this habit actually push me closer to a meaningful goal, or did it mostly give me relief from facing the difficult step ahead? As you learn to notice this, something subtle changes. You catch yourself mid-action, opening yet another article under the banner of careful research. You sense the relief that comes from rearranging projects instead of confronting the hard one. Each of these is a signal, small, quiet, of the shadow in your daily systems. Recognition doesn't remove the habit overnight, but it takes away the illusion that it was progress. The shadow's influence in productivity is quiet but cumulative. A single hour spent in disguised busyness doesn't seem harmful, but spread across weeks, the hidden losses add up to entire projects deferred, opportunities left untouched, goals repeatedly shifted into the future. Its force doesn't come from drama, but from repetition. Each unchallenged cycle of avoidance becomes part of the foundation of your work habits. This is why the shadow side of habits matters, because it feeds on what we think of as preparation, discipline, or high standards, only to recycle that energy into safe detours. It doesn't block work loudly. It drains it steadily. And what makes it most difficult is that it hides from you even faster than it hides from others. At the end of a long day, exhaustion tells you the hours were full, yet results remind you they were. That gap is the shadow at work. And this gap creates the conditions for something else. Not just the habits themselves, but the way people imagine their potential outside them. Because if avoidance can disguise itself as progress, then it's easy to believe that your true productivity, your real capacity, lies just beyond the work you're actually doing. That tension between the fantasy of what you could achieve and the reality of how you usually work becomes the next challenge to confront. Fantasy versus reality in work performance. Many workers today carry a quiet assumption. They're convinced that under the right conditions, they could unleash a much higher level of performance. This belief feels reassuring because it keeps potential alive without requiring evidence. As long as you hold on to the idea that you could do better, you don't actually need to confront the numbers in front of you. You can live in a state where peak productivity feels just within reach, deferred until circumstances line up. The problem is that once reality presses in, deadlines, measurable outcomes, unfinished tasks, the comfort of that imagined version of yourself starts to fracture. This difference between imagined potential and delivered results becomes especially clear in how people use modern tools. Calendars fill themselves with recurring tasks, dashboards classify goals, and algorithm-driven assistants promise to optimize your time. At first glance, it looks nearly impossible to fail with so much support. But the data doesn't match the promise. Research continues to show that when workers collect more tools, attention splinters. People spend their hours refining timelines, reorganizing notes, and learning new software features instead of advancing on actual work. In practice, the very systems designed to increase effectiveness often become a way to maintain the fantasy. Imagine this scenario. You spend an entire morning setting up a new productivity app. Categories are built, colors locked in, labels carefully assigned. By lunchtime, the system sparkles with organization. It feels like progress, but the assignment you needed to finish remains untouched. No draft written, no client feedback addressed, just the glow of preparation. This tiny loop illustrates the larger split. One side creates the appearance of diligence, while the other side bears the reality that nothing meaningful has moved. Workplace research confirms this is more than a personal habit. Many organizations now rely on dozens of disconnected tools, a setup that increases friction instead of smoothing it. Planning multiplies while focus thins out. The illusion gets stronger through appearances. A neatly arranged chart looks like efficiency. A project dashboard with shifting progress bars looks like momentum. Yet those visuals often track activity rather than movement toward key results. You can complete subtasks all week, but if the main objective remains still, performance hasn't improved. This is why meetings can feel packed and updates impressive, yet deadlines slide by unacknowledged. The digital record points to order, while deliverables tell a different story. Continuing to operate in fantasy feels easier because it isn't measurable. You can always say you could stay focused for 12 hours or would finish a draft in one sitting without needing to prove it. As soon as you move from plans to action, limits surface, tasks take longer than assumed, interruptions arrive, attention wanes. Action reveals where effort falls short. Fantasy remains untouchable because it never has to answer to a clock or outcome. That disconnect explains why many find comfort in organizing indefinitely rather than experiencing the test of actual work. Remote and hybrid work environments complicated this further. With less direct oversight, workers lean heavily on digital planning and project boards to display effort. Updates, polished timelines, and perfectly managed dashboards can substitute for tangible progress. Yet this doesn't always mean workers are less capable. Analytics have shown that remote-only employees, for example, often log an average of nearly half an hour more focused time each day. At the same time, they also face new interruptions that scatter attention across channels. This makes the gap between appearance and reality more situational. For some, the flexibility increases output, while for others it masks hours lost to constant digital check-ins. Numbers reveal how widespread the pattern has become. Studies in 2025 pointed out that a typical worker spends close to 8 hours a week interacting with organizational platforms, tweaking priorities, uploading updates, polishing categories. Of that time, only a slice translates into measurable action. The rest is swallowed by upkeep. When multiplied across an entire workforce, those hours amount to entire workdays that look busy without producing outcomes. Another metric driving this home is net effective hours, the time where activities produce results. Compared to official work hours, the gap keeps widening. Logged-in time doesn't match delivered work. The story of high potential persists while the record of results falls away. If that sounds abstract, consider how it feels on a smaller scale. A worker believes they just need to fine-tune their system. One more folder structure, one more integration, one more perfected routine before output surges. Days pass and projects remain stuck at the same halfway mark. The worker reassures themselves that the next fix will unlock momentum. But the loop persists: tweak, delay, repeat. The sense of being capable gets preserved, but the work itself stands still. Why is this cycle so persistent? Because it protects identity. As long as you sit in preparation, you get to keep being the person who has everything under control. No data proves otherwise until you move into execution. And once you take that step, reality tests the self-image. Maybe you aren't as fast as you imagined. Maybe the work has rough edges. That clarity hurts, so it becomes less threatening to polish structures than to face imperfection. Fantasy feels more forgiving, while reality holds you accountable. The effects accumulate fast. Entire companies invest in systems to appear seamless, all while net productive hours lag. Entire teams log time updating boards, while priority milestones stall. Research confirms that AI adoption and heavier tool use often extend working hours instead of shortening them, because each new feature adds maintenance as well as complexity. Put simply, every new promise hides another cost. Where the fantasy is control, the reality is more scattered effort. Breaking the pattern requires concrete steps. First, notice when organizing becomes a substitute for progress. Catch yourself when you're configuring tools instead of completing tasks. Second, choose one simple metric to measure this week, not 10, not a whole dashboard. It might be one paragraph drafted, one client response sent, one key task marked complete. Third, practice executing with a timer, 20 or 30 minutes. The goal is to do the thing, not to plan the system around it. These steps sound small, but they anchor activity in reality rather than illusion. This is the real danger of living inside the fantasy of productivity. Hours pass, energy fades, but outcomes stand still. The structures that look polished can keep entire organizations convinced that progress exists, until missed deadlines and looming goals make it impossible to ignore. In the end, the fantasy drains more than time. It erodes focus by pulling attention into image management instead of honest execution. And that erosion has a hidden cost, one that reaches deeper than the hours lost on apps and charts. It starts feeding on the very parts of yourself you've been trying hardest to avoid. Cost of avoiding the shadow. Avoiding unflattering traits may seem protective, but in practice, it shifts focus and steadily drains mental energy. Concealing aspects of your behavior forces you to divide attention between actual work and maintaining appearances. That second layer of effort rarely draws direct notice, yet it weakens concentration over time. Even without visible failure, the ongoing defense of an image dulls precision and slows progress. Each time the shadow is ignored, clarity slips, because energy is redirected into disguise rather than into creating results. Perfectionism highlights this cost. On the surface, it poses as high standards, but often it reflects a deeper fear of letting imperfect work be seen. When you rewrite the same line for the fourth or fifth time, what you're avoiding is the discomfort of calling something finished. The hours consumed offer safety, not advancement. A useful test. If you edited a paragraph more than 3 times before sending, chances are you polished instead of progressed. Try the 3-pass rule this week. Draft, revise, review, then move on. That discomfort you feel at releasing it is the real step forward.